And hello everybody, it's Non-Scene News here, and today we've got a lot of breaking dates today. And the first news we'll be talking about today is coming from the Russian Federation. We've got news today that a record number of world leaders will be travelling to Moscow, the capital city of Russia, to take part in the 9th of May Victory Parade that obviously happens in celebration over Allied victory in the Second World War over Nazism. So we'll just really quickly go over the list of the world leaders that will be traveling to Moscow this year to be attending the Russian military victory parade in celebration over the victory in World War II. So the world leaders are the Prime Minister of Slovakia, the President of Serbia, the President of Brazil, the President of Kazakhstan, the President of Palestine, the President of the People's Republic of China, the Prime Minister of India, the President of Belarus, the Prime Minister of Armenia, the President of Tajikistan, the President of Cuba, the President of the Republic of Spasica, the General Secretary of the Communist Party of Vietnam, the President of Burkina Faso, the President of Kyrgyzstan, and the President of Uzbekistan, and lastly, the President of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro. So all of these leaders will be present at the 9th of May Victory Parade that will be happening in the capital city of Russia, Moscow. We've also gotten some pictures that have been released in Russian media that shows the parade rehearsal in Yekaterinburg, that shows T-72B3 and T-80 BVM and T-90 tanks and BMP-3 equipped with factory protection kit and electronic warfare stations. So this will be the first military parade since the Ukrainian war that will obviously be showing modified tanks. So the tanks that Russia's been using in the battlefield, with obviously the drone casing at the top and more armored protective armor on the tanks as well. So very interesting news. And if you remember, in the last video we talked about how Putin and Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff arrived in Moscow. Let's just really quickly go over their meeting. So if you remember last video, we talked about how Putin and the Trump envoy Witkoff had a meeting. So they concluded their meeting after 4 hours of negotiations. So the key points of Steve Witkoff's and Vladimir Putin's meeting is that Putin and Trump call is theoretically possible, the Kremlin noted. After talking with Putin, Steve Witkoff told Donald Trump that the quickest way to a deal was to support giving Russia control of the 4 disputed territories of Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporozhye, and the Kherson regions of Ukraine. And furthermore, we've also got some news today that the US President Donald Trump has signed an executive order extending the sanction package against Russia for another year, introduced by Joe Biden. So Donald Trump will be extending sanctions against Russia for yet again another year. We've also gotten some further comments about Putin. So we've gotten some statements coming from Putin today that Putin empathized that Russia is placing a significant focus on improving its navy, highlighting its crucial role in safeguarding the country's national interest. He also noted that the global situation, new threats, and the digital revolution is necessary for the creation of the new look for the Russian Navy. Additionally, Putin also stated that Russia's strategic nuclear forces serve as a guarantee of the nation's security, with modern equipment comprising 100% of the nuclear arsenal. So, interesting news. And furthermore, the next news we've got today is coming from Ukraine. We've got news that the Ukrainian Air Force loses its second F-16 fighter jet. The pilot Pavel was killed alongside with the F-16 fighter jet. So the Ukrainian Air Force jet was shot down over Ukrainian airspace. The 26-year-old pilot did not survive, as stated by the Ukrainian Air Force. So on April the 12th, 2025, Pavel was killed while performing a combat mission on the F-16 fighter jet. Apparently, the F-16 was shot down by a Russian Su-400 anti-air missile complex that destroyed the F-16 and also killed the pilot. So the Ukrainian Air Force confirms the loss of the F-16 that was shot down by a Russian S-400 system. And furthermore, the next news we've got today is coming from the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. So we've got news today that the protective arch over the fourth reactor of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant has lost its functionality after being hit by a drone, the Ministry of Environment of Ukraine noted. So in June, the restoration plan will be presented at the Donors Assembly of Ukraine. So if you remember I believe a couple months ago, a drone hit the fourth reactor of the nuclear power plant's protective layer, which both sides still deny to this day. So Ukraine and Russia still deny who did it. We've also gotten some serious news coming from the Sumy region here near the Russian border. So on April the 13th, 2025, the Russian Federation carried out a missile strike against the city of Sumy, northern Ukraine. So the Russian missiles struck the heart of the Ukrainian city of Sumy as people gathered to celebrate Palm Sunday, killing at least 34 people, the officials said, in the second large attack to claim civilian lives in just over a week. So the two ballistic missiles hit the ground around 10:15 a.m. in a double tap strike, officials said on Sumy. So images from the scene showed lines of body bags on the side of the road, while more bodies were seen wrapped in foil blankets among the debris. Video also showed fire crew fighting to extinguish the shells of burnt out cars among the rubble from damaged buildings. The dead included 2 children. The State of Emergency Service of Ukraine said in a statement that a further 117 people were wounded, including 15 children. Some videos published by citizens of the Sumy region of Ukraine filmed the aftermath of the Russian missile hitting Sumy, and it's just horrible. There's bodies everywhere. A lot of civilians were left dead. And there was also a bus full of people that was also hit. So obviously, I can't actually show you any of the footage, but if you do want to see the footage, it will be on the Telegram in the link in the description below. But there's been a huge Russian missile strike on the city of Sumy in northern Ukraine, near the Russian border, that has claimed a significant life of the civilian population. There's been many leaders around the world and officials that have already condemned Russia of doing this attack. According to Trump, he says that the Sumy strike was a terrible thing and that he was told that Russia made a mistake. We've also got news that the British Prime Minister says that Putin must now agree to a full and an immediate ceasefire without preconditions, says the British Prime Minister. He stated that I am appalled by Russia's horrific attacks on civilians in the Sumy, and my thoughts are with the victims and their loved ones at these tragic times. So he commented on today's Russian attack on the Sumy region. We've also got news today that Ukraine has unveiled a new unmanned anti-ship boat, the Alligator 9, which can carry up to 10 torpedoes. So you can see here in the bottom left corner, Ukraine has unveiled yet another unmanned anti-ship boat called the Alligator 9, which can again carry up to 10 torpedoes, which this system will obviously be attacking and trying to sink as many ships of the Russian Black Sea Fleet. We've also got news today that the 27th Ramstein meeting has happened in Germany. So there's been a huge amount of military equipment and military equipment aid that will be sent to Ukraine as a result of the 27th Ramstein meeting in the United States Air Base in Germany. So I'll just quickly go over the key announcement of the 27th Ramstein meeting in Germany, in the United States Air Base in Germany. So After the meeting, Ukraine's partners announced new support measures. So Germany will send 4 IRIS-T air defense systems, 300 interceptors missiles, 30 Patriot missiles, 15 Leopard 1 tanks, 25 Marder combat vehicles, and 100,000 artillery shells in 2025. Total additional aid by 2027 will reach $11 billion. The UK will provide £450 million in assistance, including hundreds of thousands of drones, radar systems, and repairs to earlier deliveries. Norway will contribute €100 million to the UK aid package in 2025. Norway's military support will grow by $5 billion, including $1 billion for ammunition and air missiles defense. Belgium has announced a new military aid package worth $1 billion, but hasn't given us any information what's in the military aid package. Denmark will provide its 25th military aid package, nearly €900 million in total. Lithuania plans to allocate €20 million for ammunition. Estonia will soon send 10,000 artillery shells and dry rations for the armed forces of Ukraine. And the Netherlands will provide €150 million to boost Ukraine's defense. So that was the result of Ukraine's Ramstein meeting in Germany, the 27th Ramstein meeting in Germany in the US airbase. So very big news. We've also got news today that Prince Harry, or former Prince Harry, has visited the Ukrainian eastern city of Lviv. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce the name. But the former Prince Harry has secretly visited Ukraine, meeting wounded Ukrainian soldiers in Lviv. The Telegraph reported that he also held talks with Ukraine's Minister for Veterans Affairs. So, very interesting news. We've also got news today that Ukraine has officially established diplomatic relations with Somalia in the Turkish city of Ankara, the capital city of Turkey. And the last news coming from Ukraine today is that the future German Chancellor has expressed his willingness to supply Ukraine with the Taros long-range cruise missiles. So according to the future upcoming German Chancellor, our European partners are already supplying cruise missiles. The British are doing it, the French are doing it, and the Americans are doing it anyway. So Germany expressed its willingness to supply Ukraine with the Taros long-range cruise missile. The Taros missile has a range of 500 plus kilometers, enabling it to strike deep behind Russian lines. So if we really quickly just measure 500 kilometers, so roughly the Taros German military missile could probably hit Moscow just on the outskirts, or maybe if it launched here, it could hit Moscow. So very big news. The next news we've got today is coming from Belarus. We've got news that the Pakistani Prime Minister has met with the Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko in the capital city of Belarus, Minsk. So both leaders have agreed to 150,000 young, highly skilled Pakistani workers to move to Belarus to contribute to its nation building. So Belarus plans to employ about 150,000 Pakistani citizens to solve the problem of labour shortage in various sectors of the economy, announced the both leaders. The next big news we've gotten today is coming from Serbia. So we've got news that a huge protest has happened in the Serbian capital city of Belgrade, where there's been huge flocks of supporters that have travelled all across Serbia to actually attend this huge protest in Belgrade in support for the current president of Serbia, Alexander Vučić himself. So massive crowds in Belgrade appeared backing the president of Serbia, Vučić. So there's been reports of tens of thousands jamming the streets, Serbian flags everywhere, and chanting, "We will not give up Serbia." So there's been huge protests in the capital city of Serbia, Belgrade, of huge protests in support of the Serbian president. The next news we've got today is coming from Sudan slash Kosovo. That Sudan has officially declared its formal recognition of Kosovo. So remember, not so long ago, Kenya actually recognized Kosovo, and now South Sudan has now officially declared its formal recognition of Kosovo. So this is two more countries that have now recognized Kosovo, and obviously Serbia will be condemning both of them. So interesting news. The next news we've got today is coming from Brussels, and more specifically NATO. So Russia is now apparently considering the possibility of placing nuclear weapons in space that could disable hundreds of satellites in one fell swoop, the NATO chief Mark Rutte warns. So according to the the NATO secretary Mark Rutte, he warns that Russia is apparently considering deploying nuclear weapons in space. The next news we've got today is coming from the UK. So we've got news that the United Kingdom and India have agreed on 90% of their free trade deal, with key chapters settled, British officials have noted. So the UK and India are very close to formally agreeing on a 90% free trade deal, which I'll be keeping you updated on. The next news we've got today is coming from Algeria. We've got news that Algeria orders 12 French officials to leave its territory within 48 hours, the foreign minister of Algeria noted. But we've just got news that France has threatened to retaliate against Algeria if their diplomats are expelled. The next news we've got today is coming from Senegal, from the coast of Africa. So we've got news that Senegal is apparently now in talks to join the BRICS economic cooperation and contribute its resources, the foreign minister of Senegal reported. So we've got news that Senegal is now discussing formally joining the BRICS economic corporation. And the next news we've got today is coming from Gabon, where we've got news that Gabon's military junta chief general, I'm going to butcher this name, Al Gui, has officially won the presidential elections today. So he came in power in a coup against El Bongo, his cousin, in 2023, and now he has officially won the presidential elections with a whopping 90.35% of the votes. So the French President Macron has called Gabon's presidential Brice Oligui, who came in power through a coup in 2023, to congratulate him for winning the presidential elections with 90% of the vote. So the president of France, Macron, actually congratulated the Gabon's president on his election with 90% of the vote. So very interesting news. The next news we've got today is coming from Yemen / the Houthi militant group in Yemen. So we've got news that another $30 million plus American drone has been shot down. So Yemen has now shot down the 19th US MQ-9 Reaper out of the sky. This is the 4th in just 14 days. So another MQ-9 Reaper US drone has been shot down, according to Houthi forces. So if you can see this map here in your bottom left corner, this is the number of MQ-9 drones shot down by Yemeni air defense systems. So this is roughly the location of each MQ-9 Reaper that has been shot down in Yemen. So obviously just northern Yemen here in on the Houthi control. We've also got news that the US continues to strike Yemen daily. So the USS Harry S. Truman aircraft carrier is continuing to carry out strikes on the Houthis every day, according to the commanding office of the USS Harry S. Truman. So interesting news. But despite these daily bombings by the US Navy, Yemen is still successfully blocking Western ships using the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden and the Suez Canal, which is obviously affecting Egypt's income. So you can see this map here. Yemen is still successfully blocking Western ships, despite the US pressure on the Houthi militant forces in Yemen. So very big news. The next news we'll be talking about today is coming from Hamas in Gaza. So we've got news that Hamas has released a very concerning video that it's captioned as "Time is running out." So Hamas releases a new video of Israeli hostages with the caption of "Time is running out." We've also got news today that Israeli officials estimate that Hamas has replenished its military ranks and now commands 40,000 combatants of the Hamas militant group. The next news we've got today is coming from the talks of U.S. Delegations and the Iranian delegations that happened in Oman. So, according to the Foreign Ministry of the Islamic Republic of Iran, indirect talks between the Foreign Minister of the Islamic Republic of Iran and the U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff from the Middle East has begun in Oman. So, Witkoff and the Foreign Minister of Iran talked face to face for a few minutes as they were leaving following a 2 hour of indirect talks. Both parties of the USA and Iran have agreed to continue their negotiations next week. So, Steve Witkoff, Donald Trump's special envoy, and the Iranian foreign minister have met in Oman to discuss a nuclear deal between the United States and Iran. And the discussions lasted 2 hours, and the two officials of the Iranian foreign minister and Steve Witkoff only talked face to face for only a few minutes. And obviously the parties have agreed to continue their negotiations next week. So let's just go over the key points of the US and Iranian meeting in Oman. So the US and Iran talks concluded for today with an atmosphere described as positive. And we've also got news that according to the Iranian foreign minister, the US and Iran delegations have agreed on advancing talks to reach agreements desirable for both parties and conducted from an equal position. So, very big news. So, according to Oman's foreign minister, Oman is very proud to host Iran and US talks, and says that it was a very friendly atmosphere conducive to bringing viewpoints together, and adds that Oman is determined to do whatever it can to get regional and global peace. And according to breaking news, Iran and US talks are set to resume in Rome on Saturday this week. So a second round of nuclear talks between the United States and Iran is scheduled for Saturday in Rome, following initial direct talks in Oman. So the second round of nuclear talks between Iran and the United States will be happening in the capital city of Italy, Rome. So big news. And that's not the only news we've gotten from Iran today. We've got news that the Iranian foreign minister is going to be visiting Moscow this week to discuss the US nuclear talks. So Iran's foreign minister will visit Moscow later this week to discuss recent nuclear negotiations with the United States. A foreign ministry spokesman said on Monday of the Iranian government. So the Iranian foreign minister will also be meeting obviously Russian officials in Moscow to discuss a nuclear deal as well. So big news. And furthermore, the next news we've got today is coming from Armenia. So we've got news today that Armenia is reportedly deployed additional military forces to the de facto border with Nakhchivan, Azerbaijan, so this direction here in southern Armenia. So in recent weeks, the Armenian armed forces have showed an increased activity in this area. So we've got reports that the Armenian forces are apparently building up a military presence in southern Armenia in this concluded territory of Azerbaijan here in southern Armenia that is surrounded by Armenian territory. So very interesting news. The next news we've got today is coming from Vietnam. So We've got news today that Xi Jinping, the president of China, has visited Vietnam amid U.S. tariff tensions. So the Chinese president Xi Jinping began a three-nation Southeast Asia tour in Vietnam, seeking to deepen trade and supply chain cooperation as China faces steep U.S. tariffs of 145%. Vietnam, a key manufacturing hub for the US market, is negotiating to avoid its own 46 tariffs. So the key points from Xi Jinping's visit to Vietnam is that Xi Jinping has called for stronger economic ties, including collaboration on AI and green tech between China and Vietnam. Despite close economic links, tension still persists over the South China Sea, and Vietnam's move to limit Chinese imports and accept US-aligned tech like Starlink. Both sides have aimed to sign around 40 agreements, including rail infrastructure projects backed by Chinese loans. Xi Jinping's visit also underscores China's efforts to obviously maintain an influence in Southeast Asia amid US trade pressure. And the next news we've got today is coming from Beijing. And right before Xi Jinping visited Vietnam, he also concluded talks with the Spanish Prime Minister. So Xi Jinping met with the Spanish Prime Minister in Beijing, and Xi Jinping emphasized that there are no winners in a tariff war and warned of consequences that lead to self-isolation. He highlighted that China's rise through self-reliance and resilience, stressing that the country won't yield to external pressure. Xi Jinping has also called on China and the EU to uphold global trade, oppose bullying, and defend international fairness and order. So Xi Jinping met with the Spanish Prime Minister and discussed economic trade between the two countries. The next news we've got today is coming from Japan. So, Japan's military has released maps of Russian in yellow and Chinese in red aircraft operating in near the Japanese airspace over the past year. So you can see here in the bottom left corner, Japan's military has released a map showing Chinese and both Chinese and Russian aircraft circling Japan, very close to its airspace. In Japan, in return, has scrambled fighter jets 704 times. And the next news we've got today is coming from the United States of America. We've got news of Trump's physical results released, and apparently he's looking good. So we've got news from the White House that Donald Trump performed a physical test, and apparently, according to doctors from the White House, Trump's physical results released today, and apparently he's looking good. So apparently he has excellent physical health for his age, and says that Donald Trump is fully fit to execute the duties of the commander-in-chief and the head of the state. So doctors have tested Donald Trump's physical capabilities, and apparently he is more than ready to execute his decisions as the President of the United States. So in short, apparently he is good. We've also got news today that's via Truth Social, the social media app. The US President Donald Trump says that semiconductors and computers and smartphones from the communist China will be subjected to 20% tariffs, and says that nobody is getting off the hook. So Donald Trump will be slamming a 20% tariff against semiconductors, smartphones, and computers from the People's Republic of China. So very big news. We've also got news today that Trump has begun the next stage of preparations for the Central Military District in Mexico. So after moving infantry units to the land borders with Mexico and deploying the US naval group of the coast of Mexico, for this first time since the Mexican-American War of 1846 to 1848, Trump has ordered the US Army, the US Armed Forces to take control of federal lands along the southern border. So this means that for the first time in modern US history, a buffer protected military zone is being created along the southern border of the United States. Military level surveillance of enemy troops movements across the border, restriction of access for civilian in accordance with military control rules. A pass regime has been put into effect as the US military base. Illegals are now trespassing on military property. They will be treated in accordance with military security protocols. No refuge, no loopholes. The southern border of the US, of the United States, has become a protected military zone. The last news coming from America today is coming from the White House. We've got news today that El Salvador's president lands in the United States ahead of meeting with Donald Trump today. So Donald Trump says that he's looking forward to seeing the president of El Salvador today, and apparently the two leaders will be working to eradicate terrorist organizations, according to Donald Trump. And sorry, the last news come today is coming from Florida, where Elon Musk's SpaceX company sends US spy satellite into orbit. The Falcon 9 launch pad is successful. The Falcon 9 rocket conducted a successful takeoff. So if we can see here in the bottom left corner, we can actually see the rocket land again after deploying US spy satellite. And that's all the news I actually have for you today. I am Non-Scene News. I'll try and provide you news that medias around the world do not show you. I do these videos hopefully daily, so consider subscribing and liking. And if you want to support me personally, consider joining a member of the channel, or even consider donating in the PayPal link in the link in the description below. Also, if you want to get news that I can't fit in these YouTube videos, consider joining the Telegram link again in the link in the description below. Again, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all later. Bye.